Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Man attacked by hyenas at bachelor party says his dad found him in pool of blood, had to fight to survive. Nicholas Halls, 27, is recovering after being attacked by two hyenas who entered his tent while he was sleeping at Cape Vidal Nature Reserve in St. Lucia in South Africa. One of the two animals ended up with part of Hall's head inside its mouth, with its jaws clamped around his cheek and skull, while the other clamped onto his left ankle. When I realized what was happening, it was pure instinct. I knew I had to fight to survive, Halls tells People of the attack, which occurred while he was attending a bachelor party. A man in South Africa is speaking out about having to fight to survive after being attacked by two hyenas while staying at a nature reserve for a bachelor party. On Saturday, August 30th, Nicholas Halls, 27, who lives at Stridgewin Farm in Harburg, KwaZulu-Natal, arrived at Cape Vidal Nature Reserve in St. Lucia, South Africa, which he'd been visiting since he was 6 years old, just before noon with his dad Colin, ready for the celebrations to begin. Halls and some friends had been fishing in the day and had some food and a few beers that evening before going to bed tired after the week's work at around 1 a.m. local time. Approximately half an hour later, he said two hyenas attacked him after one entered his tent through a 6-inch gap that he'd left unzipped for ventilation. One of the two animals ended up with part of Hall's head inside its mouth, with its jaws clamped around his cheek and skull, while the other clamped onto his left ankle. One went for my leg and the other for my face and head. I fought them off by ripping my face and ankle free, then attacking the eyes of one and forcing my hand down the throat of the other, Halls tells People of the attack. I had been asleep when I realized what was happening. It was pure instinct. I knew I had to fight to survive, he adds, telling People. I reacted immediately. I ripped myself free and went straight for their weak points, the eyes and throat. It was all instinct and adrenaline. Hall's screams woke his dad, who was in the rooftop tent above him. My dad jumped into action immediately. He found me in a pool of blood in my tent, put me in the car and drove me straight to Bulito Hospital, he tells People. Insisting he'd zipped up his tent the same way he had done many times before, Halls says, I've camped at Vidal before without problems. That night I left a small gap for ventilation. If the hyenas wanted to get in, they would have found a way regardless, and that's exactly what happened. He said the fight lasted about 60 seconds and was 1 minute of hell, in a piece he wrote to remember the incident, which he shared with People via email. Halls is now focusing on getting better, telling People that doctors have said full recovery will take about a month. I've had about 30 stitches in my head, hand and cheek. My left ankle and right thigh also have deep puncture wounds, but thankfully no bones were broken, he notes. I'm doing a lot better. The doctors are happy with my progress and there's been no sign of infection, Halls shares. For now it's about rest and allowing my body to heal properly, he tells People, adding that he's very grateful to be alive and that he had the strength to fight back when he did. Cape Vidal Nature Reserve didn't immediately respond when contacted by People for comment on the attack. It was supposed to be the night of his life, one last wild celebration with his closest friends before walking down the aisle. But for 29-year-old Ethan Wells, his bachelor party turned into something out of a nightmare, leaving him fighting for his life and clinging to the memory of a father who refused to give up on him. The story sounds almost too terrifying to believe. Ethan and his friends had traveled to a private lodge near a wildlife reserve to enjoy a weekend away from the city. The plan was simple: campfires, music, and a little too much beer under the stars. But somewhere between the laughter and late-night toasts, danger crept closer than anyone realized. I heard something behind me, this low growl, Ethan recalls, his voice still shaky as he sits in the hospital bed. At first, I thought it was one of my friends trying to mess with me. But then I saw these glowing eyes and everything went silent. It was like time stopped. The glowing eyes belonged to a pack of spotted hyenas that had been lurking just beyond the tree line. Drawn by the smell of food and possibly by the loud music, the animals had come looking for an easy meal. But when Ethan wandered a little too far from the bonfire to take a call from his fiancée, he became their target. They came out of nowhere, he says. One of them lunged straight at me. I fell backward and tried to kick it away, but there were more of them. I could hear my friends shouting, but I was already on the ground. What followed was a blur of chaos. Hyenas, known for their powerful jaws and relentless pack tactics, surrounded Ethan and dragged him several feet away. His screams echoed through the night as the animals tore into his legs and arms. "I thought I was going to die," he admits quietly. "I just kept thinking, I can't let this be the end. I can't let my fiancé get a call that I didn't make it home." Ethan fought back with everything he had, kicking, punching, and grabbing at anything he could find. He says he managed to hit one of the hyenas with a nearby branch, giving him a few precious seconds to crawl away. That's when his father, Mark Wells, who had come along for the trip as a last-minute surprise, heard the commotion and ran toward the sound of his son's voice. "When I found him, he was lying in a pool of blood," Mark says, his voice breaking as he remembers the scene. "I didn't even think, I just grabbed the closest thing I had, which was a flashlight, and started swinging and yelling until the animals backed off." Mark managed to scare the hyenas away long enough for Ethan's friends to rush in and carry him back to the lodge. They wrapped his wounds in shirts and belts, desperately trying to slow the bleeding while someone called for emergency help. "It felt like forever before the ambulance arrived," Ethan says. "I was going in and out of consciousness. The only thing keeping me awake was my dad telling me, 'Stay with me. You're going to be okay.'" Doctors later confirmed that Ethan had multiple deep bite wounds, a broken arm from the initial fall, and significant blood loss. But thanks to his father's quick actions and Ethan's sheer determination to survive, he made it through emergency surgery and is now expected to make a full recovery. Wildlife experts say that hyena attacks on humans are rare but not unheard of, particularly in remote areas where food is scarce. "Hyenas are opportunistic predators," explains Dr. Lena Moreau, a conservation biologist. "They usually scavenge, but they're capable hunters, and a lone person away from a group can become vulnerable. It's a reminder that we're guests in their territory." Ethan's fiancée, Julia, says the ordeal has changed their perspective on life and on what really matters. "When I got that call, my heart stopped," she says. "I thought I was going to lose him before we even got to say I do. Now I just feel grateful we still get that chance." Ethan himself is trying to process what happened, but he says the experience has given him a new sense of purpose. With something that wants to kill you, you learn what you're really made of, he reflects. "I fought because I had something to live for, the people I love. I think that's what gave me the strength." The wedding, which was supposed to take place in just 3 weeks, has been postponed to give Ethan time to recover. But the couple has no plans to cancel. "If anything, this brought us closer," Julia says, holding Ethan's hand gently. "We realized how fragile everything is. We're not waiting on happiness anymore, we just want to be together." As for Ethan, he's still nursing his wounds, but is already joking with friends that his bachelor party story might be the most dramatic one anyone has ever heard. "Who else can say they survived a hyena attack the night before getting married?" he laughs softly. "It's not exactly the kind of wild night I had in mind, but hey, it makes for one heck of a toast at the wedding." Still, when he talks about the moment his father found him, the laughter fades and his voice catches again. "I don't know if I'd be here without him," Ethan says quietly. "That's something you can't ever repay. He saved my life." For now, Ethan is focused on healing and on writing the next chapter of his life, one where danger stays firmly behind the fence line and where love and family take center stage. "It's crazy," he says, looking out the hospital window. "A few weeks ago, all I cared about was whether the groomsmen's suits matched. Now I just care about waking up next to the woman I love and maybe calling my dad a little more often."